So this is our second coffee talk, and we had such a good time last time. And I was so excited whenever Charlie was originally going to be it, and then he got moved or decided that he needed to go to Top 500 in Dallas, and I was able to ask you because you were someone that I wanted to have on it anyway.
What did
I
I
was
say
telling
the first
you
time
that.
you told me? Oh, I can't do that.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, remember how I said we were going to do that sometime in the near future? Well, it's not so far as we were expecting originally. So, but thank you so much for sitting with me. You know that we all love you and love any time that we get to talk to you. So the way that this goes is we have a couple of kind of rapid fire questions we talk about that we ask you. Anybody else here that has any questions for Mo, please feel free to ask them as well. And then, you know, like I said, we can just get to know you a little bit better. And some of what you're no, yeah, for better or worse. I love it. Okay, so if you could travel in time, past or present, which would you choose?
Well, I thought about this, and given my age, I would rather go to the past.
Is there any specific period that you would like to go to, or an event?
Well, looking back, the time after I got married and lived in Houston, that was the most exciting time of my young life because I had been lived at home, went to Lamar, you know, pretty mundane life. Mm-hmm. But I had an aunt that I was very close to, and she was very inspirational to me, and that lived in Houston. And my husband at the time was going to law school at the University of Houston, and so we met up with some people there, and one of the guys' wife's father owned an apartment complex, and he painted, there were 8 of them, he painted them all different, it was apartments, but he painted them all different colors and called them condos. So we thought we had a condo 2 blocks or 3 blocks from Galleria, and we thought we were something.
Yeah.
It was at the corner of Chimney Rock and Richmond, which was a block off of Westheimer.
Yeah.
So those were exciting times. My aunt was at one time vice president of Bank of the Southwest, the only female, and that was why she was such an inspiration. I mean, we came from Alabama. I mean, you know, Pell City is about big as this table, and my mother had 4 sisters, and they were all very successful. My mother was probably the least, not least successful because she had 4 children and wrote for the local paper and did things that were interesting, but my other aunts were like, one taught art in Paris, and
yeah, there was a high bar. So.
Yeah, and one was an editor of a newspaper in Savannah, you know, things like that. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, she was very interesting and very brilliant, and long story short, she met up with a lady named Ellie Fondren, and if you're familiar with the medical center Fondren, there's a street Fondren in Houston.
Yeah.
Very wealthy family. What that meant was they became business partner kind of situation, and my aunt had access to a Learjet. So what that meant was she would call me at work and say, I'm hungry for catfish. Can you be at Hobby Airport at 6 o'clock? And I knew to say yes because I knew we were flying to Pell City in Alabama to go to the Ark to have catfished that night, and then we would just fly back a few hours later. So that little perk was pretty exciting. Yeah. The only thing that I do remember that was my regret, and I don't mean to pat my back to y'all, was they were, at the time, Ann Richards was governor, and she was trying to get Texas, well, Austin, to be the next Hollywood. And so she was trying to bring movies to Texas, and had asked Ellie, I guess because of her connections, to help her do that. So we got to meet a lot of actors and actresses that y'all would not remember their names, or know that they were, but like Stephanie Powers and people like, you know, in that, Robert Wagner and things like that.
Well, I know Robert Wagner.
But one day she called me at work and said, can you leave tomorrow? We're going to Puerto Vallarta for the weekend. They had a house down there. And I said, okay, I think I can. Back then you didn't have to have passports to go to Mexico or anything. So and there wasn't an airport there. There was just a landing strip. So we flew down there, and on the plane she said, we're going to have dinner with Elizabeth and Richard tonight. And I said, okay. So later on we got to the house, and I said, well, what time are your friends coming over? And she said, you know, we don't eat until 10 o'clock or 11. So, and at the time we had an 18-month-old baby. So it was Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton who had a house a few doors down. And John and I went downstairs to put Jason to bed and fell asleep and slept through that dinner. And so that was my big chance in life, was to meet Elizabeth Taylor in person. I wanted to see if her eyes were really purple. So that didn't happen.
I would probably be upset with my aunt for not waking me up.
Yeah.
Wake the baby, everybody, I don't care.
But that life was pretty fun.
Yeah.
In Houston. We were there for 6 years. I worked at a hospital there.
Yeah. After hearing that, if I could travel to the past, I also would travel that time period with you. That's awesome. Okay, so your aunt, would you say, you said that she was an inspiration to you. Would you say that she's been probably your greatest influence or inspiration in your life?
I guess as far as inspiration, yes, because going out with her taught me a lot of things about how to, just treat people. She was very, very courteous to service people, waitresses. She said the first thing you do is ask them their name. Mm-hmm. And then if they're coming back, ask them where they're from. Just endear yourself to them just to make them feel like. So that kind of courtesy and all kind of made me feel, because I was just like a little country bumpkin from Bridge City.
Did you feel
I didn't know. I knew what fork to use, but that was about it as far as being put in places that she put us in.
Yeah.
Which I was very grateful to her for exposing me to. It was kind of like living like the rich and famous without being a rich and famous.
Yeah.
Because we were exposed to a lot of, we got to go places and do things that I normally would never have been able to do.
Yeah, I think that that's a great lesson too that she taught
Yeah,
about.
so she, the way she brought herself up and how she fit into any environment.
Yeah.
She was very funny and very dry-witted, and you probably don't remember a guy named Jonathan Winters. He was a comedian, and he begged my aunt to come on Johnny Carson with him.
Really?
Yeah, and which, he said, I will just sit there and you can carry the thing. But she was amazing.
Did she ever do it, Johnny Carson?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah?
No.
Okay, so if you could have any superpower, like the ability to fly or be invisible, which one would you choose?
Oh, invisible.
Really?
I'd definitely be invisible. I would love to do that. Fly, although I flew a lot, because my first airplane flight was in a Learjet, which is about as long as this room.
Yeah.
And so getting on a regular commercial plane was terrifying. So I would never choose to fly. I would love to be invisible, to be places and be able just to stand over the side and just watch what's going on.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. Okay, so when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't know. I don't remember having any aspirations being little. But going to school, I wanted to be an architect.
Really?
I was always drawing houses or rearranging my parents' house and furniture as a little kid.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fun.
And so when I decided that I wanted to go to school, Jim will appreciate this, I wanted to be an architect, but Lamar didn't have any school like that. So I went into art, which was a big joke. I mean, I don't know what possessed me, but it was either art or the home ec department, and that was a bigger joke. So I went into art, and I took some classes in home ec. They had a few design classes that were more geared towards fashion than architecture. And later on, they did have a kitchen and bathroom renovation that I took, But that kind of, I met my husband at that time, and he was at Lamar. He was 2 years older than me, so I did not graduate at that time, and I did take classes later on, but when I was taking those, I was here, and it was just taking them just to enjoy the class. But anyway, I worked while he finished school, and so we went to Houston, and he went to the University of Houston Law School. Surprisingly, got accepted to NYU Law School. We lived in New York City for 1.5 years, which was amazing, but terrifying that those people think that's the way people live. It's just, day-to-day living is so hard there. It's just so hard. And it was pretty sad to see that some of those people never leave that city, and that's their life. You know, and this was the time when you dressed and you're out. I remember wearing this to church. I went to church with this lady, this girl from Mexico City, and she was dragging this mink coat. We had to borrow the money to go up there, but a lot of the people were from other countries there. And she was really sweet, and she was dragging over her arm this full-length mink coat in the street. And we were walking, and I said, it's a little bit warm for a mink coat, you know, because, and she said, well, aren't you cold? Because it was like, I don't know, October, and I had on, or September, I had on this bright stripe colored thing with a yellow purse and yellow shoes. And I might as well have been carrying a sign that said, I am from Texas. The only thing I didn't have was the big hair. Because they said, you've got to be from Texas. And
That's so
I
funny.
said, yes, because everybody in New York at that time, and still today, wear black. And if it's not black, it's a shade of black. Yeah, it was an exciting time, but very unusual, like going to a foreign country.
Well, and for anyone that doesn't know, just because you were talking about art, you will see some of her touches around the office. If you see in property management, the office remodel that she just did in there, and the paintings on the wall, I just love it, and I hope that they all get to see those. But she will, if she gets a painting for one of the offices that she does, she takes one and she always puts her own Maureen touch on it and adds additional stuff to it, which is so. No, I love it. I think it's incredible. But
I had an aunt that was very talented, but I'm not the artist. All the girls in our family are very artistically gifted, except I'm the least artistically gifted. The others
well, yeah, and then
are
that's a
very
high bar that is set there. Yeah.
Melissa's office too.
Yeah, Melissa's
she
office as
transformed
well.
Melissa's office to make it look very beachy and very, very nice.
Yeah.
It's that's fun for me. It's
You're
just,
good at it.
You know.
So sunrise or sunset, what do you prefer?
I would say sunset, but I see more sunrises than sunsets because
Same.
I have horrible sleeping habits. And I get up very early usually because I fall asleep early and then wake up in the ungodly hour of the morning. So I would say I enjoy a sunrise, but the only sunrises I remember are at the lake or at the beach, you know. But I don't know, that would be a hard one to pick because both of them have good meaning.
What's your favorite season?
Winter. I like winter clothes.
Yeah?
I hate
for the
summer
clothing?
clothes. Yeah. I've never liked my arms or anything. I never wear sleeveless, so I love winter clothes and layering and that sort of thing. Cold, I hate the cold. But,
you're in
this
Texas,
is not
so it
that big
works.
a deal
Yeah.
here. No, I would say winter and fall. I like those better. Summer is okay, but I guess I'm more geared toward clothes, and that's how I choose.
Yeah. Is there a certain holiday that you like better than the rest?
Oh, Christmas.
Yeah, I
definitely.
thought probably when you said that.
At least now I've gotten over starting to play Johnny Mathis' Christmas album in October. It just used to drive my husband. That's probably why he divorced me. Because I would start playing Johnny Mathis in October. You know.
Do you still like to do that, you said?
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
My grandma would always put her tree up in October.
I love
because
it.
She wanted to enjoy it.
Now I never
Come down like
decorated.
December.
I do not believe in putting up any decorations till December 1st for Christmas. But I did last year start decorating because I'm alone and have to put up those damn trees by myself. So I did start the weekend of Thanksgiving doing that, but usually, I mean, I think you ought to celebrate the holidays and not to go into Hobby Lobby right now makes me want to throw up.
They had Christmas out in like July.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's one quirk or habit that you're into that most people probably wouldn't know?
I saw this and I think the one, I love to drive, and but I love to drive fast.
Oh, really?
And so in my family, I'm known for having a heavy foot, and it's, I hate to say, I dated a guy for 10 years that rode motorcycles, and that was the most, I have 3 boys. Their ages are 42, 46, and 49, and I never would allow them on a motorcycle. So when I started dating Billy, we dated for 10 years, and this was like 8 years ago that we stopped dating. He was a big motorcycle,
Did you
and
ever
he had
ride
a
it
group
with him?
of friends that rode motorcycles, and it was the most fun I've ever had in my life. And
Did you have a leather?
until we crashed.
Oh,
And then it was
that is scary.
it was not a bad crash, but
It was bad enough.
it was bad enough that it scared me. But it was at the end. It was in the in the 10th year of our relationship, and a kid ran a stop sign, and we were on a gravel road in Winnie, and middle of the day. We were about 2 blocks from the house. We were going to meet all of our friends, and we were all driving over to Galveston for the day. And
Did you wear the whole leather jacket, get up and everything?
oh, you always had to
Yes.
wear leather. I wore blue jeans, but I wore a leather jacket, leather gloves, hat. If you didn't wear that, you were a fool.
Yeah.
But we had the earphones and the thing. You had music. I've fallen asleep on the back
Yeah.
before.
Oh gosh, that'd be scary to
But
follow.
I've ridden on the back to Corpus Christi. We went to Birmingham, Alabama. The most terrifying thing was doing it in the rain on the highway.
Oh yeah, that is. Did your kids be like, you said we couldn't, now you were they?
They were furious.
Oh, man.
Scared and then furious.
That's funny.
They never did get close to Billy because of it, I don't think.
Really?
Because, but he was a policeman. He had just, when I met him, he had been Ann Richards' bodyguard for the whole time she was governor. And
funny how
so
many
I
connections you have
felt
to have.
completely confident. I wouldn't get on the back of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get on the back anymore.
Okay, you could have been famous for like singing or acting or something. Which one would you think, or which one would you have chosen to be a famous
singing.
Yeah?
I don't know the words to not one song. And I'm so jealous of people that know lyric. My sister was the singer, and she could sing everything. And I would love to have a singing voice, but I did have the opportunity to be around when my aunt was training, brought this girl, and her true name was Temple Reiser.
Ooh.
That was her given name.
That is a famous
It was
name,
her
huh?
dad was Dr. Reiser in Pell City in Alabama, and she had a beautiful voice, and it's so much work. And that was when it changed. I never wanted to be a singer because 8 hours a day, all she did was practice runs and go over songs, and I couldn't believe how hard it was. And so, and then the last time that made me really realize was I went to a concert in the Woodlands to see Cher, and we got up to sing "I Will Survive." I think that's the song. She's one of her real popular ones. And I couldn't talk for 3 days after that. And I thought, how can she sing song after song after song? When that was one song, we just tried to work our way through, and we were so hoarse. But
That's so funny.
so
I love
singing
that.
definitely.
Would you have sang like Cher type of music? Is that where you think your genre would have been? Because I could get down with that.
Well, Taryn may remember the night we did karaoke, and it got put on the news. Yeah, that was
Who
so
did it? I want to see this video.
What
Can we
was the
go?
name of that club? What was the name of the club on College?
Oh, who knows?
It was that club that had, Dale might
Put it out of my
remember.
mind.
She's a damn.
Was it Palladium?
No, what was it, Dale, that had different
Rocky
clubs
Octane?
in Rocky Octane.
Yes, my teenage years come back to life.
Yes, we went there, there were like
And they had
5 of
karaoke. I
us.
karaoke there too.
Yeah, there were 5 of us that went, and,
And McClellan
Some-
was big on the karaoke thing.
yes, she was there. You weren't there with us?
I can't remember that far back.
Oh my gosh, I just
Anyway.
really can almost envision that, and it makes me so happy to think of all y'all
We
doing that.
had enough drinks, we got up there to do it, and then we saw this person in the background. They were filming it for the 10 o'clock news.
No.
And we nearly had a stroke.
That's so
But
funny. Do you
I
remember
never
what
saw
song you were singing?
No. I don't
What
even
would be your
remember.
go-to karaoke song? I asked her, but you've done this before. What's your
I would never do it
choice?
again because I don't drink anymore. But anyway.
That's so funny. I love that. Well, what's the best fashion advice you've ever gotten? Because you're somebody that
This was
really
easy
fashionable.
because I remember, my aunt was influential. I'll get quit going back to her, but
No, it's okay.
Sally Bundy one time told me, you can never be overdressed, but it's better to be overdressed than underdressed, because if you go somewhere that's very casual and you're overdressed, just tell them you're going to another party.
I love that.
Good advice.
And I
I
thought,
love that advice.
I would never come up with that, but that was her advice.
I think that's brilliant. That's so funny.
Sally's advice plays in my head all the time, that commercial of, why can't I wear white after Labor Day? And I'm like, you can, Sally, you can. It's okay.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
Was
she would let you
believe
know.
it? Yeah?
Yeah,
She was a fashion police.
Was she?
yes. she
That's
let
so
me know
funny.
That was a no-no.
And Mark is just as bad. He's kind of, he's mellowed in his old age,
Yeah,
but he would tell me if I,
Oh, he'll still tell us, yeah. What are you, painting today? If you wear torn jeans, I love it. That's so funny. So when would you say you're the happiest?
well, with my children, my
And your new
grandchildren.
grandbaby.
I have 7 grandbabies,
Oh.
and a young one that's a month old, and my brother has 4 daughters, and he has 7 grandchildren. So our reunions are really fun.
Yeah.
We have a reunion in Alabama every other year, and so it was coming off the pandemic and not doing it for a long time. It was really special this year, and so.
I love that, and it always sounds
Because they're
fun
all the
hearing
same
your stories.
age.
Yeah.
My 3 sons, his 4 daughters are all the same age, and they
Mhm.
all have the same age kids, and it was just like 40 people that were just, it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
I love that. Okay, so if you could live anywhere in the world besides here, where would you choose?
That's, that, I thought about that when I saw that too.
And if not live, maybe just travel to.
I don't take this wrong. This is not the prettiest place I've ever lived. And I would love to live on a lake or, somewhere with a view.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not that interested in seeing the world.
Really?
No, I don't like to travel over large bodies of water.
Uh-huh.
I have been to Mexico and Cancun and Cozumel and things like that. It's Mujeres and all that, but
Do you like road
going to
trips?
Europe. Love road trips.
Yeah.
I mean, I could stay in the car all the time, but I don't know. I don't know. As long as it's pretty,
Yeah.
it would
And you
be
like
nice.
water then?
I love water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you always loved water?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you go like on vacations with your family when you were younger to places
We
with water?
we vacationed in Florida. Living in Alabama, Florida was easily a place that we could vacation. And so when my dad worked for DuPont, and he was a construction foreman, and I moved my freshman year from Jasper, Alabama to LaPlace, Louisiana, which is between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and maybe still is. Louisiana is the most illiterate state in the country. And
Mississippi Beat.
Godshaw Parish, or whatever the name of it is, was the most illiterate parish in Louisiana. So when I moved there, I moved from a little college town, and I don't know, y'all won't know what this is, but the popular thing was to wear blazer and Weejuns without socks. Weejuns were loafers.
Oh.
You didn't put pennies in them, but they were loafers that mutilated your feet because you had. I still have scars on the back of my heel, but that was the style. Well, I thought I'd be smart. I was a freshman, and I would wear my blazer and my Weejuns to school the first day I was at school. I might as well have been from Mars. I mean, they didn't even know how to talk to me. It was bizarre.
What school was that?
It was Godshaw High, the sugar thing. It was the most bizarre place I've ever lived. Friendly people, but the boys and girls were separated. The first week I was there, the boys, a guy lived behind me that was on the football team, and his mother made him sit on the back porch because he ate raw meat. Because he was told that would build up his muscle. So these guys were like giants, and they held. There was a couple, a husband and wife named Mr. and Miss Snowdy. It was Snoddy. And they pronounced it Snowdy instead of Snotty, but they held him out the window by his ankles, 2 football players.
Oh.
And they didn't get expelled, they just got suspended for a few days in time to get back and play the game that Friday night.
Of course.
And I just thought I'd gone to hell. I mean, they didn't speak English. They dressed bizarre. There was an imaginary line behind the school by the refreshment stand. When you got a break, the girls would stand 10 feet behind this line and 10 feet behind the same line the boys would stand. And you would talk across this thing. And I'm just like,
Where
I
am I?
cried for weeks. And just, my dad honestly was going to send me back home to live with my grandmother. And so finally, Mother said, you're not going back home, so you might as well get it out. But they were beautiful, lovely, sweet people. But it was crazy.
Yeah. I consider you someone who's kind of a keeper of the RE/MAX story since you've been here for a while. How long have you been with the company?
Since the beginning.
Yeah.
December
How long
30.
has that been? Yeah.
34
33 years.
Since the beginning, then.
Yeah. I came the week after they started.
Did y'all know each other before this, or did she?
Mary Jane Luton was her friend.
Yeah.
We were sorority sisters at Lenore.
Really?
And she called me one night with John and I were in bed, and she called and asked me if I knew anybody that could answer the phone, that they had started a real estate company. And so I was working at, y'all won't remember you may remember the Green Beanery. We had a shop, a friend of mine and I had a shop upstairs at the Green Beanery. I was making no money, and John turned around after I hung up, he said, do they pay money? And I said, probably. And he said, well, call her and tell her you'll do it. And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I walked in, they were sitting in a circle with chairs at a office on Delaware, and no furniture, just chairs like this. And I got dressed like I thought I was going for an interview. And they asked me if I was interested. I mean, it was just like, are you interested in working? And then I said something about, and Nidra, I said, well, would you like to know my background or something? And Nidra said, well, it really doesn't matter. I mean, can you answer the phone? And so I said, I'm going to have to go talk to my husband about the hours and stuff. It's okay, we'll pick up carpool. I mean, it was just like, it didn't matter what I was saying.
They were going
to accommodate.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
That's
Virginia
why we had the
Brown
phone in the-
drove around.
In the closet. We had the phone in the closet that was a Mickey Mouse or something.
No, it was a Garfield phone.
Garfield.
Virginia
I do
Brown
too.
drove around for weeks with all of her stuff. She wouldn't bring it in, all of her stuff in her trunk, because
Why?
she felt like, she cried all the time because she was afraid she'd made a huge mistake.
But how big of a deal was that? I mean, because it was a all-female ran real estate company and them starting this out, was that such a big deal in that time? I mean, it seems like to me now, looking back at it even this time, how big of a deal that must have been. Do you remember the
I don't
impact of
Especially
that?
with Remax still kind of in its infancy. It was
Yeah.
probably, what, 10 years old? When was it, like 74, 75?
Yeah, it wasn't
in
the
70s.
Remax
It wasn't that
concept.
old yet.
Because Nidra McGee had seen an ad in a magazine, a Texas
Mm-hmm.
magazine, about Remax. And it was the 100% concept, meaning you got 100% of your commission,
Yeah.
period. You paid for your office, you got 100% of your commission. The ladies were happy with that. They were working agents. They wanted a venue to make money.
Just a free.
They, as long as everybody, you know, and they didn't want to grow. They just,
They wanted to work.
you know,
Yeah.
they were eager to invite people in if they wanted to come. But it wasn't like they were
That wasn't
recruiting.
their goal, yeah.
We never recruited. We had actually had a waiting list of people who wanted to come. We just didn't usually have room. And
Or
then
furniture. I'm just kidding.
once we, and the other place was at the original office. We were waiting for Bill Little to finish the building in over on Dowland that we were moving into. That's when we were there. And Mary Jane Mouton, there was only the phone on my desk, and she brought a Garfield phone from her kids from home and put it in the closet, and that was where you went to take a phone call, like sales call or something. Vicki Shin was our first new agent, and she said, I will come under any condition. And I said, the condition is there is a beverage refrigerator in that closet over there with a printer on top of it, and that would be your office. And she said, I'm coming. And so she came. And so it was the most fun time you could ever have, because we celebrated every listing, every closing, we drank a lot. We did. It was mimosas all the time, flowers, balloons.
I love that.
It was crazy.
Did it just feel like y'all always got to hang out and work with your friends constantly? I mean, with that?
Yes,
That's
it
how it
was,
feels now.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was,
We have a poem, which I found in one of my,
I have the poem. Nidra McGee's husband Milton would add
That's very clever.
a phrase to it every time we had an addition, or when we had additions to the group.
Y'all have it still?
we still.
Yes.
Could you bring it up one day for us to see?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got it in my office. Well, it's in Google, I think, too.
That's awesome.
It was the neat thing about it, and it's what I don't think people realize today, is how far this company has come. And you have to understand, you don't understand how strong the base is. When we started, I mean, we were a tight group. It was husbands and wives, and I mean, we met all the time, we partied all the time. Sally had gatherings at her house with husbands and wives and all the time, you know, and everybody would come and we'd bring food and whatever. So it was a very strong base. And because of the market, we were just killing it, you know, killing it. And and when I bring on a new agent, and I say, I'm going to tell you this with every ounce of honesty in my body, you cannot touch Charlie Foxworth as a broker. And I think I get emotional because of remembering when he first came and how naive he was. And he was just so honest and so, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, he didn't care
He didn't put
that
on
people
airs.
didn't know what he
Yeah.
was doing. He, but he has worked so hard. I mean, I can't tell you the meetings, I can't tell you the places he's gone and the things he's done to get us here. And it's not been easy. But what you're reaping the benefits of today didn't just happen. When he bought this building, Jamie Hensley had moved, they had a beautiful office over where, but the church next door bought the building out. And they downsized into the shopping center because that's what all the big Remax offices were doing. They were moving into these strip centers and going to cubicles. And so he said, so he looked in, he got an architect to draw up stuff to redo the office on Dowling with these making these cubicles and changing the offices and all. And I said, you better talk to the agents about this. I don't know, because I heard how unhappy they were. That was the craziest thing anybody has ever done, because you had like maybe 8 offices.
Like a call center.
And they put the top producers in the 8 offices, and then everybody else went into cubicles. And I said, what do you do when a cubicle starts outselling an office, person?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you think Albert Nolan was going to move out of his office? No. So, I mean, you can't do that. You cannot treat people according to how much money they make.
Mm-hmm.
No.
You treat people to what a good person they are, what a team player they are, what a good agent they are, regardless of their production. If you can afford an office here and we've got it available, you
Go
can
for it.
have an office.
Mhm.
You don't have to produce to earn, notoriety here. And I think the hardest thing, and Dana can attest to this. You were put on pedestals as being top producers. You had the biggest office. You had the biggest desk. Here, I mean, look at Hester. I mean, everybody's got a same little office. Everybody's crammed in. Nobody thinks of who the top producers are. How big is your office? How big is your desk? That is not, it's just an equal playing field here. And I think that's the first thing I try to make new agents understand is, and I don't just say it, but this is the most fair place you're ever going to be treated, because we work for you. We understand. And Charlie was the one that flipped the pyramid of, the broker being at the top and the agent being at the bottom. He flipped it to where you make the money for us. You are the most important thing here. So why would we, make you feel so dependent on us? The stronger agent you are and the better presentation you make to the public and the more successful you are, it just makes us look good.
Yeah.
You're the ones that make us look good. You're the reason we can be in this building. When they were all downsizing, and Charlie said, they're going to think I'm crazy, when he told us what he had done and bought $1 million building, 10,000 square feet, when everybody else were going to strip centers. He said, we laughed, and I said, build and they will come? I mean, are you going to believe that? And he said, we better. And we never had a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
He said, what do I do if nobody wants an office? And I said, it'll be fine. And so he gutted this building, and as a matter of fact, y'all had Hester's first office was right here.
Yeah.
They were in, American Real Estate was in this building at one time.
Sent the coupon in. I didn't send it in, neither did.
But
I still think that's
he has
something.
has put his life on the line and put his family's future on the line so many times financially, and taken such risk for the company. He's the most unselfish person as far as someone to work for.
Yeah.
Because he's really a very giving person, and it's just been fun to see him.
To see growth.
He hasn't changed at all, but to see, the different, his accomplishments to go.
Can you talk
And-
about a little bit about the day that he came in to y'all to do his kind of
Oh my God,
presentation?
the day he came.
Yeah.
We were
Because I love
having-
that story.
We
I
were
think it's
having a
good to see.
meeting at Sally Bundy's house, and I thought he was coming to speak. We were having just like a sales meeting, but it was going to be, we did
Yeah.
that sometimes. And I thought he was coming to speak on commercial real estate or something. And I think I even handed him something to carry into as I was unloading my car. And
Make yourself useful.
Yeah, or he offered or something, I can't remember, but I was unloading the car to take something into her house. And so anyway, so Hester can better explain it. I mean, we were sitting there and I knew nothing about it. Because Mark said, why the hell didn't you tell me when they announced that he had bought the company?
At that time, Kathy Cleveland was trying to get him to come and do a commercial real estate in conjunction with her company, and she had sent him a bottle of pink wine or something. And
Pink wine.
the card's already made out in his name as being with Keller Williams, and he told us this story as we were going to Houston. We all went together like we always did to the main office in Houston. That was when Richard was still there. But he never acted like he knew anything about residential real estate. But
Well,
one thing that I need to clarify is that being unselfish, you are right up there with him.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thanks. It's been easy. It's been easy to do, to work with people that you love and in an environment that, I mean, who wouldn't love it? I mean, it's been a fun place to work.
Yeah, it's beautiful because we, like you said, we get to reap the benefits now. I mean, still and see this beautiful working place. Because when I came here, it was kind of like, are people really this nice? But it's nice to see how the groundwork has been laid for years and years and generations.
Well,
and that he built upon that. Still.
We've worked in a toxic environment before. We know the meaning
Yeah.
of that. And some of you may know it, and some of you may not be aware of it. But when you know that, and when you work through that, you know that it doesn't take but one or a couple, one
You
person
become protective.
to cause problems. And thanks to Kristen and Stacy, I mean, we're very selective on who we bring in now. Everybody that asks does not get in. So you'll feel very secure in why you're here. Because we're very protective of our agents and the environment
Culture,
that we've
yeah.
created. Because we've got a beautiful group of people, and we don't want to screw it up. So we're the ones that would be screwing it up if we bring in somebody that, doesn't represent what we want them to represent. And so that, I think, is, it's more defined now, the process, because whenever Charlie and I are, I mean, we're pretty much the same when it came, well, let's just give them a chance. If they screw up, okay. We knew they didn't have criminal records or anything, but, and, that they, if there was a little bit of something, we can fix them, we can fix them. But, we did have to get rid of a few people, and, but then, yeah, right.
Thank you.
But then when Charlie told me he was bringing on Kristen, he said, she doesn't really have ties to the area, so she's not going to have the connection. And we had connections with people. Just about everybody that asked to come here, we knew their story.
Yeah, you knew their mama or something.
And they knew us, and I knew them, and that kind of thing. So it was hard to say no to people that, not hard for this one, because she had no ties. It was a blank slate for her. So that, it's been, the process has developed. So now that she's learned people, knows people, it's not probably as hard for her to, maybe not right now, kind of thing, so.
I've only had one lady come across the table at me and demand to know why I would not invite her.
Name her.
I love it.
And that
She
was,
was showing you why.
that was
Yeah.
my experience. Basically came across the table in my office where Stacey
I
is
remember,
now.
yeah. I can't remember who
Thank
it
God,
is.
Charity was like, hey, like she walked out of her office and walked past and kind of like, do I need to, take somebody out or what? And anyway, that was
I love Charity.
that was an experience.
Yeah.
It's only happened once. But
Yeah, yeah, there have been crazy things that have happened, we,
Good place.
But I think it's awesome. Is there any really funny story, either from before Charlie came in or after, that you think that we would love to hear, maybe we don't know? I know it's kind of vague. But y'all have so many, and I always love to
There,
hear.
we, in the old, before Charlie, BC, we
BC?
had,
I love that.
we had an agent that crawled out a window one time when somebody came to see them.
No.
But to
Were they
keep
on the
them
first floor? Or this
No, it was just one, yeah, it was one floor. But I think,
You still got to see him?
yeah,
Oh, he's still practicing. I'm like,
Sheriff was trying to deliver.
huh?
The policeman or sheriff or something was trying to deliver.
oh, like a summons. You can't
Yeah.
serve me
Oh,
if you
yeah,
can't find
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
He said, you know, you need
Yeah,
to-
that was what it was. And he climbed out the window.
That is so funny.
So it was kind of like to get over the shock of who are you, and
But
what
wait,
are you,
there's
what's
more.
going to
Yeah.
happen to our company, that, because, I mean, it was just such a shock.
Yeah.
Nobody could even speak. And I think it was so sad for him because nobody's cheering or anything. We're just sitting there like,
Oh gosh, I bet that was
what
so
the F
tough.
are you
Yeah.
talking about? That you're selling the business.
Did he have Karen with him at that time
No.
or not yet? Okay, so
Karen was
that was
the
a
big
surprise.
announcement. So he said, I knew I couldn't walk into that company, just little old me, and think that I was gonna be accepted. I had to do something big.
I love
And
that.
Taryn had left the company and gone to Coldwell Banker, and, which was devastating to us. She stayed in her office building, but, she left Remax. And so I don't know the sequence, but he talked to her and asked her to come back. And, so that was the big announcement, and he brought her in that afternoon. So
I love that.
Something always right with the world.
I know.
Always right with my world. I remember him talking about, he said, should I make some kind of dramatic entry? He said, maybe I can wear a cape and
A cape?
not necessary.
That's so funny.
Well, and it was so funny because he knew nothing about residential real estate. He was so shocked at how much money the women made and how quickly they closed, and how the market was just hot, at that time. And his eyes just went, wow, this may be something. But I think him not competing, him not being a working broker and focusing on how to make the business grow and financially taking care of things and all, was comforting to agents to know that that was not a situation.
Yeah.
And so I guarantee you that Hester Bell, and Charlie will tell anybody this, and he's got the numbers, Hester Bell's income has not fluctuated an iota through the 30 years because her base is so strong. It doesn't matter what the market is. And that's the truth.
But I know he has used you as an example several times as
Yeah.
far as, not letting the market be your market or determine your market. That's something that
Not
we
letting the
teach here
market
as a,
control your
Yeah.
income is something on our beliefs. And the way you do that is you create a strong network of base of people that you do business with, because they're gonna have children, those children, and trust me, she's been through several generations. And they're gonna tell their friends, they're
Yeah.
gonna spread the word. I remember before Charlie, what the agents now don't understand is you have it so good. You have it so good.
even just with having GPS, I think
mean,
I have to get
oh my
sometimes
God.
and having, yeah.
How many
Well, her
GPS?
cell
Oh my
phones,
God.
yeah.
How many thousands of dollars did you girls spend on advertising them?
Oh, God.
4,000,
Easy.
3,000,
Oh,
4,000.
a month? Way more.
Right.
That's
It was
crazy.
Just on
billboards, it
billboards.
was Property Magazine, it was the
Just
newspaper,
on
it was
real
radio,
estate.
it was TV. I mean, thousands and
Oh,
thousands of
gosh,
dollars that you
awful.
had to spend. You had to spend to get your name out there. And it was just like, and back then, when I would, after I told them we don't accept new agents, go to Coldwell Banker, they've got a fabulous training program, which word for word, that's what I said. I told them if they had experience, and I said, because we had the reputation for being expensive to come to, because we were. I mean, and I said, you're gonna have to understand, you're in business for yourself. Where else are you gonna find $1 million building with a staff at your beck and call, with all of these people training you and peers helping you, sharing business. They meet every other Wednesday to share their business with you. I've got this listing.
Yeah, and
I want you to
experience
sell
it.
it. You don't have to know anybody. Just find a buyer. And it's just such a great, strong educational working environment. If you plug in, you're not going to be wealthy immediately, but the opportunity is there.
Mhm.
It's there.
Yeah.
And and I always tell, especially girls, because there's no limit to how much a woman can make
Yeah.
with limited education. I mean, you don't have to have a degree or PhD or something. I mean, if you've got the gumption to do it and the tenacity to stick with it, you can be successful. That's all there is to it.
Possibilities are.
And the smartest thing you can do, if you will come to the sales meetings and look around, your top producers are there.
Yeah.
And why do you think they're there? Because they hear
100%.
what's going on.
Yeah.
And they get that information about what's coming up. I've got a listing. It's not in MLS yet, and they share everything with you. There's no closed doors. There's no locked doors here. Everybody is eager to have everybody help them sell or find buyers. So why wouldn't you want 100 people in a $1 million building with a free staff? Why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
And like you said, the experience here. I remember you telling me at the beginning, if you get a chance to go on Caravan and get in a car with some of those veterans, you better take it.
Yeah.
And I remember pretty close on at the beginning, I don't know how I got so lucky, but I got to go and ride with Taryn and Mark and Vivian all in one car. And I thought I hit the lottery. I was like, heck yeah, I'm getting in. And just listen to everything, because, you don't know how to, whenever we went in, I didn't know how to price the house or even notice what was wrong or right with it. You know what I mean? So I was just, everything they say was like, yeah, but just taking it in like a sponge, because I just had remembered you saying that. It was like, jackpot, 3 in 1. Yeah, this is great.
And
I
I
say
sat
for
across
anybody.
the hall from Beth Kerr,
Yeah.
and one day I heard her explaining a contract to someone, and I walked over there, and she didn't have a team at this time. And I said, Beth, who are you talking with? And she said, it's this young Keller Williams girl, and she doesn't know what she's doing. And she said, I'm helping her with her contract. She calls me and so I'm basically filling out her contract for her. And I said, she said, well, and she said, I'll just help anybody that needs the help.
Yeah.
And today, even when we are onboarding and someone says something, I say, if you want to ride with somebody, if you want to go to a listing or go to a closing with an agent, Mark McDonald, Taryn Hebert, Dana Johnson, and Beth Kerr, you can go with them. Hester, you can go with them. And I said, there's no, they want to share what they've learned and all the experiences they've had and what not to do.
It's a beautiful thing that you don't get that just anywhere. And I've been blessed to only be here, but I still know the value. But you know what I mean? That's not just everywhere. Like, that's just a blessing, kind of an embarrassment of riches that we have to have this many incredible agents that are available.
Right.
You know what I mean? To ask questions or to listen to or to.
And I think what's pretty crazy, I remember Charlie coming, and this was when, I know how to work my computer and what I need to do, but let something go wrong, and that's been very frustrating for me until Becca came into my life. But anyway, but when Charlie first came, he worked for Dell Computers when he left UT, and he was captain of their team, and all his team. The reason I know this is because he was, I belong to a club called SME, which is Southeast Texas Executive Club, whatever. And they elect or vote someone in the marketing field in Southeast Texas to be the person of the year. And Charlie won it one year. And so you could invite people that were to speak on your behalf. And he chose one of his fraternity brothers who worked with him at Dell Computers. And so the guy got up and retired in his 30s, a Dellionaire. And all of Charlie's team were Dellionaires and retired and had gone to do different things. And, you know, here Charlie is, you know, still, his dad called and asked him to come back and help him in his commercial business. And so, but he told me, he said, I regret not 1 minute of doing that because I got to work with my father. I came back to my hometown. I met Blair. We have 2 wonderful children. I bought a RE/MAX franchise, you know, so he said, my life has been good. You know, he said, I don't know how good it would have been had I gotten all that money that early, you know. So, Dave Liniger, who is the founder of RE/MAX International in Denver, when Richard was getting ready to retire, Richard Phillip, David brought the Texas franchise back because he didn't want one person owning Texas because it was the largest franchise. And so whenever Richard became ill, he owned the Woodlands offices, and he contacted Charlie, and he said, you're the only broker that I would sell my businesses to. So Charlie purchased the Woodlands offices from Richard, our past president of RE/MAX of Texas. So that gives you just an inkling of an idea of the respect that he has in Texas. But then Dave Liniger chose Charlie after only like 4 years of Charlie being a broker of a RE/MAX office to be on his Catalyst team. And that is a team of brokers that he handpicks to determine the direction RE/MAX is going in the future, I mean, internationally. And I think Charlie was, I don't know, 12, 13 number, the 12 to 13 broker to be asked to be on that committee. And now there's quite a few more. But for him to be recognized that early gives you an inkling of the idea of the impact he made in the RE/MAX world.
And how it's evolved.
I know.
And just to get to know you again a little bit more personally, because, you know, you mean so much to all of us.
Well,
and
thank you.
like she said, you are so selfless and someone that's always there for us professionally and personally. I mean, I can speak from personal experience, but thank you so much. I hope you know how much we all love you.
Yay, Mo!
Yeah.
It's been a trip.
Was it as scary as you thought it was going to be?
No.
Yes.
I mean,